Well, it's been now a month since the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's winter estate in Florida. And it appears like Fox News wants viewers to think that President Trump was trying to sell these U.S. documents to the Russians and the Saudis. Take a listen.
Did former President Trump try to share the highly classified material to the Russians or to the Saudis or others?
Whatever happened to the Republican Party backing the blue, and in particular the 35 members of law enforcement, federal law enforcement at the FBI?
Yeah, Fox and Friends host there, Steve Doocy, looking like he's kind of scolding MAGA supporters for even criticizing the FBI. And we had Fox News host Bret Baier taking aim at Trump after the raid, rejecting the former president's claim that ex-President Barack Obama had also mishandled his presidential documents as well. Take a listen.
But there is a process. President Obama, according to NARA in that statement, and everything we know, followed all of the processes to get those documents to Chicago.
According to NARA, we should believe him, I guess. But the trouble with the Justice Department leaks is that they persuade so many people who are inclined to believe what they read in the Washington Post. In fact, they can actually hurt the case. Federal Judge Eileen Cannon ruled this week that a special master will be appointed to deal with this and other things, and all the information that was taken from President Trump during the raid. The mainstream media wasting no time to speculate off of these findings. The Washington Post has cited an unnamed source and President Trump saying that President Trump had documents detailing items detailing nuclear capabilities. Not quite clear what exactly they were talking about, but that's the problem with unnamed sources in these types of reports. We can also expect more leaks from the DOJ raid about Mar-a-Lago, and none of them, of course, will be positive for President Trump. That is by design.
But of course, it's also important to take a step back, talk a little more about what Judge Eileen Cannon has done with her ruling on Monday to try and prevent these leaks. And we want to take a closer look at her ruling on the special master, where we are right now. We're about, a day before the deadline, John, where both sides are supposed to give some names of who they would like.
All right, let's welcome in now former California Congressman Devin Nunes. He's the CEO of the Trump Media and Technology Group. Congressman, great to have you back with us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know how these leaks works as well as anybody based on your time in Washington. And, the question that Bianca and I struggle with all the time is, after so many of these reporters got duped by, the Adam Schiffs of the world and these false reports about Russian collusion, why do they seem to be making the same mistakes again with the FBI Mar-a-Lago raid?
Well, John, I don't think it's a mistake at all. In fact, it is quite planned. So what you call duped is what most Americans would think. You think a lot of these conspiracies that they've chased around, most importantly, probably, and the funniest one is they, went looking for Russian prostitutes, P-tapes all over Europe. Those were the top people all throughout the top news agencies that did that for the better part of a couple of years, even after the Republicans in Washington, with the House Intelligence Committee in the lead, proved that this was a hoax. And this is really a continuation of that. What we're seeing is what started in 2015 and 2016 of the Democratic Party, the Clinton campaign, working with the media to start investigations via the FBI and the Department of Justice into then candidate Trump, that then led to ultimately the Republican Party and numerous other Republican Party leaders. This has never stopped, even though it's been totally debunked. So what you see is that now, what maybe 5 or 6 years ago, you and I would have said, oh no, this couldn't happen. There must be some truth to these leaks. Well, in fact, no, we now know, because we've seen this play call over and over and over again. And just kind of the final point, just to put an emphasis on it, this is all about the Russia hoax, in my opinion. I believe what they're looking for are the documents that the American public has not seen yet, that I think that the president was very clear about, should have been put in the archives. He had declassified them, and the people at the top echelons of the Biden administration, the DOJ, the FBI, were all involved in this. And I think they were really looking for those documents, and I have no idea if they were there or not. And I'm really happy that finally the courts, the federal courts, are stepping up and getting involved in this, because we have an administration that is way past and out of the bounds of their constitutional authority.
Well, if that is the case or was the case and, proves to be true what you're saying here, I mean, it does go to the fact that this warrant was issued on a Friday. There was no immediate raid until Monday, Devin, of the premises. So what was the urgency if this was national security or nuclear? And I also want you to react to what we just played there, the clip from all those Fox anchors dangling this idea that Trump was going to do something and documents to Russia or the Saudis. I mean, clearly there's a smear campaign going on here as well, in addition to these leaks.
Yeah, I had not even seen those comments until just now. Yeah, it's a rather shocking because it's quite clickbaity, I guess would be the word that you would use. But look, but the warrant and the affidavit that was released just a couple weeks ago, you make a good point. If there were nuclear secrets and we were all in big trouble, you can bet that every FBI agent, the military, everyone would have been involved in messaging that, hey, we've got a real security risk. That clearly wasn't the case. So let me draw your attention to that affidavit. What did they do? It was the same play call that was used during the Russia hoax, where they used fake news stories. And specifically, they used a couple of useless news stories. And this is all we've seen so far in that affidavit. But right at the beginning of it, there's a report of a local news station says that there are some white vans in front of Mar-a-Lago. Okay, that's nice. There's probably white vans and moving stuff in and out of Mar-a-Lago all the time. I mean, President Trump did have to transfer his materials down to Mar-a-Lago. So that in itself is ridiculous. They also then went after one of our lead investigators on the Russia hoax, somebody named Kash Patel, who then later went on to serve at the Department of Defense under the Trump administration. And they used comments that he had made to Breitbart, and they were totally taken out of context.
And that's the part that's not redacted, right? Of course, in the affidavit. That's the part they want you to see, and it's just like these leaks. They're trying to score this preemptive strike in the court of public opinion, knowing that this very well may wind up like the first impeachment, the second impeachment. It is a bridge to nowhere. And at the end of the day, I think what we can't get lost here on is that this is a dispute over documents between the National Archives and the former president of the United States, who has the ability to declassify anything whenever he wants, as long as he's president. This is a document dispute. This is not a national security threat right now, regardless of what we're hearing in the Washington Post. And that's at least what we know at this stage of the game.
Yeah. You're exactly right, but I would also go a step further. If there were nuclear secrets or super classified documents, I mean, I can tell you in my time, nearly 20 years, looking at these types of documents, these documents don't just disappear.
Right.
They make so many copies, they know exactly who has them. And the point that, that warrant was so broad, you could go grab anything,
that's right.
including go into the president's son's room.
1% of the documents were actually germane to the warrant that they've gathered so far, according to Eileen Cannon. And it just,
medical records and gifts, clothing.
We got to follow the story, and I think we're going to be in this point now. It's going to slow down a little bit, but we always got to be wary of these leaks coming from the DOJ. Devin Nunes, great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. September is historically the worst performing month for the stock market, so you better be ready for it. The Fed continues to aggressively raise rates, and JP Morgan is forecasting another mega rate hike September the 21st. Is that why Jamie Dimon said an economic hurricane is coming our way? Well, gold and silver have remained remarkably stable despite the Fed aggressively raising rates today. The Patriot Gold Group has a special incentive for Newsmax viewers. Huge! Now precious metals investors can enjoy the no-fee for life gold and silver IRA on qualifying rollovers, or enjoy free, discreet, insured shipping on all direct gold and silver purchases. Here's the number, 800-356-4470. Call 800-356-4470 today.